little journey where we ultimately end up protecting ourselves using shieldheart.org concepts. You could call them technology ideas. And we are going to look into some phenomenon that are being displayed by women. When I use the title "Women Are Crazy," it's kind of a clickbaity. It's because young people are crazy. Young people who are either ignorant or uninformed, and they're the ones that kind of live out these ingrained biological tendencies, like trying to seduce each other and letting their hormones over affect them and what have you. And so, but today I'm going to really look into that. And I'm also going to touch on, because there are some people who they are misogynistic or they are misandrous, which is a hatred of men. And a lot of times that's at an unconscious level. So I'm here to bring this to a conscious awareness. And I also have some other cool presentations for the evening. Let's see here. Let's see. Let me just collect my notes here for a moment. So what I do is I take notes throughout the day. Why don't we take a look at this for a second here? Look at what I'm looking at, and you can see that I just take lots of notes and I email them to myself. But while I have the camera pan in this direction and I have your attention, I want to start off with something specific. Here, let me turn this off here. All right, so I'm gonna crank that up. So there's a phenomenon that happens in society. Pardon me, I'm juggling multiple elements here. I'm gonna reduce the volume here. Isn't that nice to have some classical music to help formalize the conversation? Because on a surface level, this might seem that I'm playfully dabbling around in my own, my own ideas and then I'm not really, but what I'm really trying to do is I'm trying to look at the basic building blocks of society, where marriages and also personal connections with the self, where those lie and how those. So let's look at this. This is a post, okay, on the internet, and it's a bit random. I was actually watching a show where this lady, she's this rich heiress from the Middle East, likely oil money family. I was watching an episode of. Let me pull it up here. I was watching an episode of. Let's see, Buying Beverly Hills, and so this. So these people, let me scroll through here. Let's get to there's this property. In any case, this lady was buying in Beverly Hills. I want to show you guys. So just breathe with me. Whenever there's like there's a delay here, just take a deep breath and let's enjoy together. But you guys have to see this, right? It's such a cool moment in the show. Here we go. Check this out. What's the listing? Look at that, guys. Look at this. Look at that. Look at that. Look at that. Are we now feeling you know? And here's the lady. Where is she? She's right here. She pulls up in a nice Rolls Royce convertible. That's her. And so yeah, it's fun. They're checking out this cool property. But remember, guys, what did I say in the last episode? It's not what you have or what you're doing, but it's about. And so this is the lady in question, right? This lady of that I'm making reference to. Um, it's like it's who you're doing things with, okay? And as wealthy as this lady is, the absurdity of it all, guys, is that she's actually only dating this guy. And I'm not trying to make fun of the situation or him, but the reality is she's putting a deal down, in a house that, most people, it's like divided up into like the lifetime, amounts that people make. People might make 2 million or 3 million over their life. You divide that into 80, that's like 30. So she's buying a house that's the equivalent of like 30 people's, lifetime net worths, right? And yet she's only dating this guy. And he's like an NBA player, and he seems like a athletic guy and everything, but I just see the facial expression on her face. It doesn't look happy, and I don't think a woman should be happy, or I don't think she should lower her guard. I don't think she should enter into her feminine unless she has a reliable man that she's fully trusting on her side. Generally, that's the father of the daughters. And when I use those terms, I use the term guardian specifically, because especially for men, I don't believe that men should label people their parents when they're adults, when they're 18 or what, maybe even younger, like 13, when they hit puberty. I think they should be their own man, be their own person, and then label. And I think this is the source of a lot of hatred of men and women. It's even more prevalent, understandable, where you see dysfunctional parents who are problematic and not doing a good job. But even if they are doing a good job, guys, what happens is just the very act of labeling somebody your parent, it's gonna make you unhappy, and no amount, okay, of material. Here she is. Any amount of material, it's not gonna help. I'm sorry. It's like there's nothing that you can do to get around the reality. Let me switch back here. Here we go. And by the way, that was not alcohol. I only can enjoy kombucha. Sometimes I like the watermelon variety. So where are we? Well, we're looking into why people are misogynistic, and then don't worry, I'll get into the "Are Women Crazy?" And I actually have a list. I think you'll find very interesting if you've never heard. There's kind of these analysis of how men's and women's natural default approaches to life are so divergent. It's not that we can't respect each other and be nice to each other and try to be competent in our fields, but it's that at a base level, there are things that women are comfortable doing and that they will do that men would never do. And that just shows that men generally operate from the more logical end. And I'm going to tie this all into some critical things that men have to do in order to make sure that they're not being overly influenced by women, either before marriage, a seductive woman, or even their wife. You would not want your wife to control you with, trying to trade sex for doing certain things, or have your wife's emotional qualities overly have an influential force over the marriage. Now, okay, so people are, the reason often that women hate men is either men disrespected them, or like treated them like an object. And I want to really put emphasis on this object idea, because that's the way children feel when they label themselves a child, and they label some of their parents. They feel kind of like that person's property, and that's why it's better to label them as your brothers and sisters spiritually, people who you're equal to, and that you do what you can to contribute to the house. And it's not, it's like you like each other because of your values, because values are what keep people together, not money, not good health. These are things that fluctuate during life, and the magic of life is in being able to say F you to life, and that we are more than life itself. We're more than the life that we as consciousness created. We are more than that. We are all of it. We are everything before and everything after, from one incarnation to the next, from perhaps one planet to the next, if planets were to suffer, existential, extinctual disasters. All right, so that's point one. Is the reason people have hatred towards men and women is because they label people their fathers and mothers, and you don't, especially men, when men are like labeling somebody that, and it's especially for men labeling women their mother or grandmother or aunt. The reason that's destructive to the psychology of men is because it makes men want to objectify a future partner, or it makes them just objectify women. I'm telling you, this was the phenomenon that I've observed, and also, I mean, men just objectify women because they're reliant upon their own, their lower desire energy. They're letting that have a play out into all of their life, and that's why you have to be self-intimate on an everyday, daily basis. But let's get into the fun stuff here. So are women actually crazy? Some women are, I would say, they have their lives together. I would say they try to operate from logic. They are interested in their health and well-being. But if you really look at what at least some women do, and again, this is more younger women, so this is more of a thing of how do we protect the younger people so that they won't have bad memories and problems that they've created in their lives. So when women start off, the idea of sending women to school, that would be useful, I think, if it was like an all-women's school. But to suggest that there is any better job for a lot of the women out there than child rearing at least two kids, right? Replacement, and then to two kids, and then raising the kids, and also raising other kids. Like, yes, a lot of women do that already. They're in the education world, but the issue with that, and you know, more than half of education is totally functional. There's English studies, and there's a structure of a school and sports and things for people to do. But the thing is yes, women can do that, but I really think that it's best that young men be taught by other men. And I don't know, this is definitely a gray area, but I'm trying to look at what an idealized society would look like. I think it would be where women teach women and men teach men in the school system, and the thing is this is how some private schools operate already. The thing is we need to a school or an organization, or a religion for that matter, either promotes premarital intimacy, or it discourages it. I think that's such a defining factor. In like, you look at schools, they encourage premarital intimacy and proms and everything, and all that does is it leads to likely heartbreak, as people are quote unquote dating. All those relationships mostly end in breakup, something like 95% of them. And the problem with people having multiple partners isn't just that they end up trying to imagine the best traits of each person and try to combine them, and so it creates this unrealistic image of what they might be able to attain. And here's the first sign of the craziness of women: is women think that if a man's willing to be sexual with her, that he might want to marry her, or that he might that she's like, that he's like likes her. But the reality is that's not the case. It generally isn't. Especially if a guy really cared about a woman, he wouldn't even want to be intimate with her until after their wedding, just to prove and validate that he really likes her for her. He likes her for her values. And so the thing is you don't like, for a guy might go up to one woman, and by the way, a guy should, and another thing is, if a guy's not ready for marriage, then he's not approaching for marriage, he's approaching for sex. Ooh, that's good. Let me write that down. If a guy is not ready for marriage and approaches a woman, he is not approaching for marriage. He only wants sex. Even if greetings, Miss Veronica. Even if he doesn't so what I just postulated, Veronica, is that if a guy is not ready for marriage and he approaches a woman, he's not approaching her for marriage. He only wants sex, even if he doesn't realize that. And so what I'm suggesting is that only a guy should, the only thing a guy should say to a woman, except for like other courteous conversation and maybe they're working together or whatever it is, but I'm saying like if the only romantic, the only relationship conversation he should have with her isn't, oh, what are your interests? Or he shouldn't say, I mean, maybe he could say that, but I'm talking about to initiate a courtship or present his interest. He shouldn't say, "Oh, I like you." So let's go some things he shouldn't say. He shouldn't say, "I like you," or "Do you want to date?" or anything. He should be very black and white. He should say, "Are you?" This is like the only thing a guy should say in terms of relationship stuff. The only thing a guy should tell a gal in the context of a relationship conversation is are you looking to the woman? He says, "Are you looking for a husband?" Question mark. And then if she says yes, she's looking for a husband, then you as the man would say, "Well, I have some interest in you," and this is already assuming that there's kind of hints of interest. There's maybe a little flirty looks and whatnot. That's the nonverbal cues, right? After confirmatory nonverbal cues, right? After that, then he asks, "Are you looking for a husband?" If she says yes, if she says yes, then he can say, I'm interested in you. Do you have any interest in me? So try to make things very black and white, very clear. Do you, and then the next thing is, or he could even say, "Do you have any interest in me?" Or he could say, "I'm interested in you. I would like you to," wait. Maybe he should establish that first, and then he should say, "I'm interested in you. If you have any interest in me, then take down my name and look up my Facebook page if you like what you see. If you want to talk, if you like my page, then message me." So that puts it in her court. But the thing is if the man says, "Are you looking for a husband?" and then she says no, then you have to, and then that's the end of the conversation. You could say, if she says no, or if she says you have a boyfriend, or then that's fine. Then you could just be nice, just be courteous. Just say, okay, well, that's cool. Best to you, uh, right? If she says no, say best to you. And then, okay. But the thing is, okay, so here's some things. You don't want to do this with too many women because it makes it seem like that wasn't your first choice. So this is not something that you want to like go on dates and be intimate. And by the way, all the whole dating thing is just BS. All that matters is, I mean, it's not BS. It's actually intimacy. People historically didn't go on dates unless they were married because it was a public demonstration of their mutual feelings for one another. And those feelings should have been backed by a commitment to a future together of, planned out and doing things together. But here's the fun stuff. Let's get into the fun stuff of what are indications that women are crazy, and at least this refers to younger women. Okay, number one, they use birth control pill. Guys wouldn't use the birth control a pill to stop their because it affects your hormones. And look into this. There's actually research and conversations about this online now that it actually affects your simplified. It does affect your choice of what type of man you find attractive. It makes you more attracted to more feminine men, and one counter argument to that might be, well, it's useful for men and women to be feminine and masculine, but I would say that what makes people feel good and natural is men being masculine and women being feminine. So, for example, the woman being the one kind of dressing to get attention. When the man dresses to be the source of attention, then it could be fun in some instances, but the thing is then what it does is it takes away attention from women, and women, I think, deserve the attention, and because that's what the feminine wants. The feminine wants that attention. Here's another reason for women to be considered to actually behaving irrationally. Maybe crazy is a too overused word, and it's not technical enough. So maybe irrational is a better word. So women even considering having abortions, like, I don't think men really think about it. Like, they might think that, well, if we have an accidental pregnancy, we can get an abortion. Men don't deeply contemplate how crazy it is to have an abortion, to kill a child inside of them. And I think if they thought about it, they would be against it. And this isn't about trying to force women what to do with their bodies. This is about not even ensuring that no women have to be in a position to make such a disturbing and dehumanizing decision. So even that, and then because I think what women do is they kind of go with these trends. They'll encourage each other that, oh, okay, do what you want, be promiscuous, have abortions, use birth control. All ideas that are not about celebrating and protecting women. And when women hear me say that, I think they probably think that they're being objectified by me or men. But guess what? Women can celebrate and protect themselves as well. And the best way to do that is by women sticking with their fathers, by or brothers, people that they trust. All right. And women choosing to do that because in the past they didn't really have a choice. The world was too harsh of a place. But even today, there are all these harshness and all these undesirable experiences that women are being exposed to having potentially, and they should want to protect them. They should recognize that hormones do play a bigger role, and emotionality, and that's the influence of that on decisions. It affects women more, and so women should have the base level of understanding of themselves to know that, and then employ the support and protection of men in their lives. And does this mean women don't go to college and they just stay at home with their fathers and kind of wait to get married? Maybe that's a good idea, at least for some women. That's a lot of how cultures operated, and how very functioning cultures still do operate in certain Orthodox religions and places in the Middle East where people have this different kind of connection with each other. They really care about women, and they make women a top priority of being. Okay, so another thing that women do, which is I think an obvious tell that there's something going on. This may be only a certain group of women, but all the body surgeries, all the toxic makeup, all the uncomfortable shoes, all the glitz and glamour and color, like that's all unhealthy stuff, and it's also unhealthy to the mind because it not only does it absorb the skin and everything, but it's saying that you don't think that you're attractive, and women are attractive. In fact, I think a lot of men do not see things in terms of the woman and her vulva and her clitoris and the flower, it's important to see women in that light. Like, it's important to look at a woman, if you're a man, and if you're either want to look around and see who you think is attractive, which is, I think, useful for singles, quote unquote, to different social settings like gyms or like different organizations or something. That it's important for singles to kind of glance around and just exchange little flirtatious glances, and it's a support to say that, hey, you are attractive, or in a similar age and life circumstances, and I support you, and I affirm your attractiveness, and that's a nice way of saying, hey, let's make sure that we that's it's a way of looking at people and wanting the best for them. Because what I do is when I look at women, I want them to feel uplifted by me paying attention to them, and I want them to feel like especially since I'm like physically fit and healthy, I want them to feel like they should also be that too. So that's also a kind of aspect of it. But yeah, guys, all those things I mentioned about what women's turn away from rational thinking are, as long as you're conscious of this type of stuff. Like, obviously there's things that men that do are crazy. I'll probably cover that in an upcoming video, but let me end with this. So here's my theory on how to celebrate women. First of all, guys, we're consciousness, okay? We invented this life. We invented these bodies. We invented it as a form of an interactive and entertaining experience for ourselves, consciousness. So the question is, how do we find peace in the uncertainty and instability, the the ongoing flux of the material realm? How do we find a peaceful disposition? The way we do it is this is specifically for hetero couples or hetero people, and I'm obviously, if you're homo or whatnot, then you can find ways to adopt the logic that I'm about to share. Okay, so it starts off with men to be masculine, all right, and direct their sexual attention towards their future wife's flower, or for that matter, just kind of even looking at women in public in their flower area, that's a source of something to celebrate and to be close to and connect with, because it's like a human experience. And this is an alternative to people having this cultural enthusiasm towards bigger is better stuff. Let me write that down. Hold on. Alternative to cultural enthusiasm of bigger is better mentality. Okay, so for instance, men, it's time to stop wanting a larger PPS to dominate women and to get attention from her, because it's actually feminine for men to want female sexual attention and compliments, even though obviously it can be fun, at least in the context of a marriage. People, I think, have more room to explore in the privacy of that, but it's for men to be masculine and direct attention towards a woman's VVS and to find peace. Remember, peace is a core element peace is the only emotion that is, well, there are other emotions perhaps, but it's this sense of control. Like, peace is a result of a lot. It's a result of men being armed and knowing how to defend and deal with the problematic people of society. It's by fighting for our freedom. It's by maintaining our infrastructure. It's by the continued creating a continued flow of commerce, and with some healthy competition in the framework of the what's the word for capitalism, right? In that, right? So the free market is so this is a request for like I'm saying, that for men to be more masculine, celebrate the flower, protect it. When you protect women in general, it directly affects your future, because you're creating a culture that is going to protect your future wife from prior attachments and unhealthy relationships not based upon true love. So So, so finding peace, gentlemen, and finding peace in giving her oral pleasure, not the dominative energy of sexual intercourse, which puts more attention on the man. Let me write that down. During intercourse. Okay, so and I'm encouraging men to not be stop being baby. I'm gonna call it being baby-like, baby, like babyish. Let's call it. Stop being babyish and wanting larger TTS, which is actually a physiological burden, or comfort fat, or other comfort fat on a woman's body, because this is a physiological burden for the woman and is unhealthy and interferes is unhealthy, interfering with life in general. So the trick is to control your desires, gentlemen, because when you become a man, you're managing yourself with self-intimacy. You know, I recommend the Doc Johnson brand. It has a product called the Main Squeeze, and when used with coconut oil, it's a healthy and functional management of the desires, because if you don't do that, it ends up where your wife, or even women before you get married, for them to try to use their body to control you and get you to do things, either get you to give them money, or in the context of a marriage, perhaps it would be for you to get for her to get you to do things that you wouldn't want to do. Like, as the man, I think it's important to be the leader in the relationship, because that way you're being the masculine, and it's only playing a role. Like, just because you're being the leader doesn't mean that you are it doesn't mean that you're controlling the woman, because if she has the same interests and values, then you're just being the leader and making sure that those kinds of values are upheld in the relationship. So it's kind of a job, just like her job is to make sure that those values are being upheld when she's teaching the children, or making dinner, making food, or managing the household, or doing whatever it is, secretarial work. Like, for example, you guys have to think of things for your wife to do, tasks. Now, in some instances, it works out fine where the woman has a job and the man has a job, or the woman's job is a full-time stay-at-home, child raising the children. But in other instances, the woman has downtime. If the man makes enough money, and by the way, they can lower their standard of living a little bit, because people have this unrealistic idea. Like, the thing is, if a woman's making her own money, she might drive a fancier car, but that might not be an option if she wants to live a life of a woman that stays home. And the thing is I think it's I think like a woman can, like, I plan to assign my future wife tasks, or, I mean, it's not, I don't even want to, I mean, yes, I'm saying assign, but really part of that's because I think women enjoy being told, like, helping them to organize their life and have stuff to do. But also she should want to do it too. Like, this is all stuff I would preemptively discuss with someone. In fact, I would probably have her view some of my videos to get an inside look on my thinking, and whether or not she would fit inside the 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 life that I have created. Yeah, and so, for instance, I'm gonna have her do things like maybe post help me do stuff to improve my visibility and promote my stuff online, or maybe help to organize interviews, that type of thing. And whatever it is, there has to be a plan, and there has to also be a plan where the man, even during the marriage, he should be willing to be self-intimate and view adult pornography if needed, to manage his desires, so that the main theme is not about him effing, for lack of a better word, his wife, but it's about her vulva and her clitoris, the external vagina, and it's about celebrating that, and that should be the central theme of their it should be what helps to keep them together. And the reality is, well, oftentimes women are not inclined to sexual intimacy, because it's like it's not as easy to, they might be achy or whatever it is. You get the idea. So let's just do a recap and conclusion. I'm glad that I brought these up. These are things that I'm going through in my head, and it just seems to me like I've got some good conclusions I just arrived at and during this video. And so, to provide a summary, I started off suggesting that the reason men and women are misogynist or misandrous, hatred towards men or women, is because they label people their parents. And what happens when people do that is, it's like an objectification, and it makes men want to objectify women because they label people their mother and such. And even if they're otherwise good people, I mean, obviously it's even worse if their childhood was dysfunctional. But so, and then men will hate, or women will hate men because either men betrayed them, but the reality is young women shouldn't have been in a position where it was even possible to get betrayed by a man. I think women and men, at least until the grade 12 level, I think they should all have separate schooling, and this would promote, and it would actually celebrate the natural interest that men and women share for each other, that desire, that passion. It would recognize it and say, hey, we don't want this to be the primary or a governing force in schools. We want schools to be about learning and sports, and that can easily be accomplished. That's why they have men's soccer, men's volleyball, men's basketball, and then women's, respectively. So, yeah. And then I got into why women are quote unquote crazy or irrational, and I made a number of points, including that they are willing to encourage each other to say, oh, it's okay to have abortions or take birth control, which damages their hormones. It's okay to be promiscuous or overweight, you just do you. And so women have a tendency to do that and not call each other out and say this is destructive or dehumanizing behavior. It's irresponsible. And so that's kind of that. And then I got into that women, they and also the idea of them getting all these surgeries and these putting makeup and high heels on. That's all unhealthy. It's unhealthy for the back to wear high heels. It's unhealthy for all the makeup it's toxic. It gets into the skin. All this. It's like totally. We can totally go beyond it, and we in a better world where at the end of the day, people are not. Then I got into talking about how men will, what's the best way for men to approach a woman, and I said that the guy, the only reason he should be approaching a woman to talk about relationship conversation is if he's ready for marriage, and he can say, and this presumes that there are nonverbal cues that they both showed some interest in each other. Then what can happen is the guy can say to the woman, he shouldn't say I like you or do you want to go on a date, because dating is for married couples. It's an outward very public expression of we are a pair, we're together. And so the only thing a man should ever say to a woman in terms of relationships is he should say, are you looking for a husband? And if she says no, then obviously he can say, all right, well, I'm, wishing you well or best to you, consider it a compliment, or, thank you for, the thank you for answering my question, something simple and respectful. Now, if she says yes, then you have to say why you asked the question. You could say, well, I am interested in you. If you have interest in me, then you can either look at my Facebook page, or maybe you have a dating profile online you can suggest to them, or maybe you have a website kind of like I do, or you can say, I'm part of this religion, or just something brief that's kind of summarizes, who you are, and then you can say, if you have interest in this, then you can look me up and message me, and then it puts it in the woman's court. If she does like you, what she sees about your online social presence, then she can follow up and message you. And then what I would recommend is then the man say, well, okay, the woman say, hey, I do like you. What do you want? Let's talk more. Then the man should say, okay, let's you want to make things as quick and efficient as possible. And this may seem unromantic, but that's because it is. It's scientific, and it's about the mathematics of compatibility. And It's stuff like, would you both be willing to abort a child if the child had uh, some developmental problems, for example? It's essential questions. What do you, if you had extra money during the end of the year, what would you rather spend it on? Or how much do you want to save? Like like you should have kind of a list of, and also things like your personal finances, and even stuff like your intimate details of your preferences and sexuality, and your pictures of your body. And this is why it's so important to take as good care of health as possible, because then you're matching yourself up with somebody who's on par with you and has similar health, longevity, sexual virility, attractive skin, attractive, body. So, yeah, this has been great, guys. I'm really enjoying this. I can even use this as a reference to further elaborate on my website and discuss things. So that is my conclusion, and to me, it's a lot of fun. Oh, and then I mentioned that men should start to be more masculine and think of life in terms of, if they want peace in their life, they should think of life in terms of their future wife's flower, and that means thinking of like her skin, her skin tone. It means thinking of, okay, this is what it basically means. A man needs to decide whether he would want to worship a woman's flower via oral sex by looking at her. Does she like her hygiene, style, skin tone, that type of thing? A man should be able to look at women, and instead of, although in the context of marriage, of course, you can have fun and everything, but the culture should have an emphasis towards celebrating women's flower, not this bigger is better thing of trying to celebrate other things like men's PPS, which it kind of, that's why I say oral sex, because it's as opposed to intercourse, which places more emphasis on the man dominating the woman. And this is why this bigger and better conversation comes up. And just the same, like in women's breasts, I prefer women with a flat chest. I think that's better, much better, much more attractive, because obviously if she's to have a child and have breastfeed, then the milk will be, it will collect in the breasts, and they'll be larger at that time. But the thing is, just in general, it interferes physiologically with a woman, and it takes away attention from the flower, which is the foundation of things. And this is about a man having a peace of mind, not having this restless desire to dominate a woman, but rather a desire to be at peace and to celebrate women. And so, yeah, so it's a fun recap, and we'll see you next time. Be sure to check out my TikTok channel if you haven't seen it, because tiktok.com/shieldheart, I believe it is, but if you go to shieldheart.org, you can always check on the social link and see what that is. But it's been an hour, guys, and actually, what I want to, as a bonus, I want to end with a light work meditation. This is gonna benefit both myself and you. And what we're going to do is, first we're going to try to find, if you don't have a little crystal with yourself, then just find anything like a piece of metal, a coin, and move it in your hand. Move it in your hand. Feel that natural product and imagine it's a source of all the light in the universe just coming to it, and you're kind of putting your hand, you're charging up your hand with by creating a contact with that natural product. And so what you do is you stand up, and then let's do this. Okay, hold on. So you stand up, and by the way, check out the patch, right? I got the shield heart patch. That's pretty cool, yeah? You stand up and you start spiraling like this. You're rubbing the stone or coin, and you spiral like this, and you have your fingers out like this, like a wand, and then you proceed to beam your immediate space. And remember, this is only something to do in a safe setting. This is, you don't want to be using spiritual protective techniques if there's a real physical danger or problems. By the way, we do need to be conscious of not only potential human attacks, but potential dog attacks. We want to avoid humans that look potentially threatening, or any dogs. You want to get away from them, get around them. And also defensive weapons, if you're not able to carry a firearm. By the way, if you do have a firearm, you need to know how to use it. Quickly draw it, back up, because if the person's close to you and you have it, they can easily grab it or grab you, right? So another thing, I just bought called a Gladius machete. It's a double-edged machete, and it's good for kind of close-range combat, as opposed to other swords, which, if you think about it, a sword, it would be a great thing to have in certain instances as a self-defense weapon, because it's a real weapon, right? That's what people used in history. But I want you guys to start thinking along those lines. Start thinking of pepper spray, start thinking of like even a stick or something that you can, especially for dogs, you want to like keep the stick like you want to keep it like right, away, out at them, and then whack, whack, whack. So I'll take my Gladius and I'll be like this, and if I need to, I'll swipe. It might be tempting to think that like if you have a weapon, it's a quick solution. Like let's say, something like this. Somebody might think that, all I have to do is, pop out a weapon, and I can easily, stab or hurt someone. It's in self-defense. The problem is it may not be that easy to do. They may be able to grab the weapon from you. They may be able to, get close to you, so it only becomes the hand-to-hand. And you have to know how to handle a knife, and you really want a double-edged one, because slashes, you might think that, I'll slash someone, slash. It might not be that effective. So what I've done is I've picked up some, I've bought some ice picks, because if you're in a bad situation, guys, you need to think like a wild animal. You need to think like, I'm going to mess this person up and they will not be able to hurt me or somebody else. And so you need to, take it and you don't, it may be that if possible, if you can do a non-lethal strike, that would be obviously ideal, because it's the non-lethal disarming strike. And then it gets into technicalities, because it's like if you don't destroy your enemies, then they might come back to take revenge. So these are difficult things to talk about, but as men, we do need to bring this to our consciousness. So that's the physical aspect, right? But getting back into the spiritual, and the spiritual is where we start off. The spiritual of being disciplined, being responsible with your money. That's really what's going to protect you in this day and age. If you have money, you basically have safety. At least if, as long as you're avoiding, you know, simple things like avoiding even like having a convertible in the city could be dangerous, or you don't want to flaunt your wealth too much. Your wealth should only be displayed in safe and private social events or vacations where everyone's, you know, and even then, you just got to be careful with who you're, if you're worth millions, if you're worth money, then do you want to advertise, hey guys, everybody, I'm worth money? I mean, it even becomes a problem if you have money and then you perhaps buy a premium automobile. uh, if you buy that, then people may have other expectations of you, like, oh, they're rich, they should be able to afford to treat me to dinner, or they should pay more for my services or products. So be very calculated in, and a great family to study is when you compare at least in terms of if you're American or live in America. Uh, if you look at like the Vanderbilt family versus the Rockefeller family, the Rockefellers used more strategies to protect their wealth. For example, they had a delayed trust that only, they had some trust set up where it only went directly to the grandchildren, not the children. So stuff like that, like we should be thinking in those terms. And we we don't need to necessarily have all the wealth, but we need to have the intellectual coordination to say, like, okay, we live by these sustainable principles, healthy, marriage oriented, and that will create a legacy for your family even without having great sums of wealth. Because like I mentioned earlier in the video, that really wealthy heiress, she she had this guy being her boyfriend, quote unquote, which is so immature, it's so unloving, it's so half-hearted, it's so anti-marriage oriented. You don't if you really love someone, you really care about them, you don't want premarital intimacy with them. All right. So, that being considered, let's complete the light work that I was doing. Let's finish up with that. So you kind of spiral like it's a hula hoop. It helps you to kind of get into a comfort zone, and then you're rubbing your stone as if you're tapping into a unified field of energy, universal force, and you're doing that. So you're like tapping in, and then you're firing it out of your fingers, and you like a wand, and maybe you can even use a wand. That might be kind of cool too, to have a wand, like Harry Potter style. But in any case, you want to be cleansing your immediate environment, your room. You should imagine you're beaming through objects in your room. Brilliant white light just streams to your phone, your computer, your desk, your clothing. Your bed is a good one, because then that can help protect from bad spirits during the night. And then so we do like a 360 kind of beam. We imagine the beams start like shooting through the walls of wherever we are. And one fun thing is to imagine people reacting. Imagine they're like seeing the beams of light. Remember to continue rubbing the natural object you have, metal, just crystal. By the way, when selecting a crystal, really try to feel it. I can get a certain sensation of certain crystals when I have them in my, I can like feel them, in my chakra, like my solar plexus, and maybe you can do that. At least try that, doing that as well. So 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 moving forward with that, then we can go to larger issues. Like, let's say you have a discrepancy at work. Maybe you don't know about your work, you don't like the pay issue with a coworker. Now let's imagine that person smiling. Imagine them smiling, or maybe if a someone who's in your life, your personal life, there there's an issue, problem. Try to think of the main issue that you're kind of facing in your life right now. Maybe it's making a decision whether to start, going to a certain gym, or start, maybe to you're not sure if you should spend your money on X situation, that just imagine the light beaming through, shining through. Imagine people smiling that you're upset at. Imagine the light, you can direct it, blast, from wherever you are. You just can kind of, what I like to do is I like to orient myself in the direction I think that person might be at, and so that allows me to beam at them, and yeah, just imagine that light just streaming through, and just for a second, imagine you have your hand, and imagine it's like bright white light that you're wielding, and then try throwing it in the air, and it just, it just helps you to reprogram your mind when you do this type of work. It helps to think of programming your mind with the things you want. You can also do it you can record yourself, like repeating kind of the language that I have, but you can do it in your own ways. You can listen to a recording, like a 5-minute like meditation. And in fact, I should be doing one of those and publishing it so that it's easy to use as a reference. But yeah, I am excited, and I'm looking forward to maybe some results you get. I get some good synchronicities. I get things happening, functioning better, more smoothly in my life when I do like the light work the night before. So all this stuff is kind of an everyday thing. You have to be self-intimate, masturbate every day. You got to do the light work every day, at least maybe 5 days a week. Take a break on the weekend or what have you. But to have a fully functioning life, you have to be plugged into it and doing stuff, and doing what might be called rituals or meditations, or things that help you to start off from a bigger picture of like, wow, this is the universe. I'm this momentary existence, and I can channel all that universal energy that is who we are, and I can channel it to, because we have free will. We gave ourselves free will. The idea of free will is that, let me sit back down. Well, let's finish with, okay, I'll finish with the free will, and then I'll finish with the light work session. So the free will thing is like, for good to be possible, for enjoyment to be possible, there have to be bad and suffering. And so that's what the material plane is like. And so basically, we gave ourselves a choice. If we want to incorporate the light work and positive thinking into our lives and being the creative being that we could be, then we can. But we also cannot do that and experience a lower looking for the right word, a lower clarity, lower quality experience of life. We can if we want, we can have that. So, but let's finish with the light work. Imagine a key world leader or someone who you think has an opportunity to do something big. Imagine this person. Imagine them. Sometimes, like I imagine myself, because I'm doing this light work. I've got shield heart. I think this is. So sometimes it might be you. You might be thinking, well, I'm doing this breakthrough. I'm got this project, so you can do the light work on yourself. You can beam a brilliant white light, laser beam it through your body, and you can beam it through. Be careful if you're beaming it through your head, because it might do something. It might make your brain not operate correctly. So just be careful. But basically you just beam, you blast, and you can blast a leader. You can imagine you're like a flying angel, and that you fly over, let's say, the White House. If you're based in America, you can fly over a war zone and just beam everyone. Imagine them surrendering to the peacefulness that we all are, and that most people are good. It's just that the 5% of bad people can mess around and try to mess around with on a small scale by stealing and hurting people, on a big scale by manipulating economies and funding both sides of wars with giving them weaponry and paying young people money, soldiers, to fight who might be desperate. So yeah, it's kind of but let's just imagine, for example, the US President Joe Biden smiling. I do think that, and it's pretty understandable to think that there would be dark forces attacking people in these positions. And I also think that he has some personal qualities that are disturbing, but maybe this is all based upon just that world that they are operating in. And so instead of thinking about that, instead of saying like, oh, the Illuminati's running the world, there's a small group of people who are kind of puppeting society. Instead of thinking that, let's imagine like maybe this members of the Rockefeller family smiling. Imagine brilliant white light streaming down. Let's protect these people who have influence, who have money, so that they won't be influenced by these negative entities. That's where I'm going with all this in terms of the light work. But that being said, let's call it an end. I'm glad that I was about to end it. Did you guys notice that? I was about to end it at 1 hour, but I'm glad that I delved into a little bit about dealing with problems on a spiritual level, and also I touched on some self-defense stuff. It'll be fun once my weapons come in. I can do a little video about them. You can't mess around. You need to adopt the perspectives of somebody who has been attacked. A lot of people just kind of think that I can't offer advice because I haven't been in a war, or I haven't been in a marriage, and I haven't suffered negatively. But I don't need to suffer negatively to learn and assimilate information from other people who have who have gone through these challenges, and even people in the past, like authors who have talked about this stuff. We can learn from each other, undoubtedly, and move forward with that knowledge, share that knowledge. And the biggest thing is sharing knowledge of our own past, because that's also powerful, and it helps people to not be. It helps to make sure that people don't go through the sufferings that we did. Like, for example, I had some negative past. I was impoverished. I also would engage in sexual favors with older homosexual men, and that was because I resented myself, and I was also mentally ill because I was kind of, maybe you could say I was lazy, or looking for a quick way out, even though there's no such thing. And as time has gone by, I've learned to, first of all, I don't label anybody my mother or father or anything. That's what I think was the root of my self-hatred, because I was acting like an object, and thinking about people I didn't like, and including them in my life, and inviting them to be an authority in my life, and that just made me angry at a subconscious kind of an unknown level, but it did. And but guess what? I'm teaching you, and I also, on my website, I talk about dealing with manipulative people and avoiding them and all that stuff. But yeah, I'm excited. I feel I feel cathartic in that have shared a lot today, and I think that's, we have to share things, guys. Information is a burden. If you hold it in, then your mind can't think about other things. So, you need to process information, let it go, teach it, share it, and then that leaves room for more information, and you can continue to build upon that and the habits. And so let's go forward with that. Any thoughts? You can always email me. My email's on my website, shieldheart.org. And yeah, let's go forward with that. Aloha, guys.